There's two, after the x-rays, there's two phrases you want to say. They're called preemptive strikes. Okay? And it's very important. And this is why. Because remember, the equation is the perceived need relative to the obstacles of money or time divided by trust. The need is done. We should have already had need established and understood that. They should already understand what we're going to do to get them to where they want to go, how we're going to get them there. They should have already started feeling some of the effects through a few treatments and the negative consequences of a potential permanent injury by not getting the physical medicine. So they should already, that should be well understood. The obstacle of time should have already been imprinted. In other words, each visit, they should not have been waiting very much at all to come back, and then you treat them effectively and move them on. Trust has been established, multiple contacts. Remember, the byproduct of multiple contacts is trust and confidence goes up, defenses and resistances go down. So we should be sitting pretty good right now. We just finished the first part of the report of findings. We quickly reminded them of the 3 phases of healing. We covered their biomarkers. We gave them a visual analogy. We showed them referred pain with the spinal chart. We showed them the x-rays. They now see all the biomarkers we were talking about, what's normal and what's not. And they know their care is based on their care, not only their care, but if they heal normal or not is totally based on these biomarkers and which ones are more important. We should have already done all that through the course of the patient education. So we're done with the x-rays. Before we ask them, and you want to ask people for commitments and treatment plans. You do not want to tell them treatment plans. Nobody likes to be told what to do, and it creates a defensive reaction. So it's a big mistake for you to tell a patient, this is my recommendation for you, whatever it is, X amount of months of care, X amount. That's a big mistake, because we want the patient to commit, not you. That'll create a defensive reaction. And so really what we're dealing with right now is really money. We're going to do a preemptive strike with time and money. Remember, those are the two obstacles. The equation is establishing need and minimizing the obstacles. That's what makes us as humans buy stuff. If the need is higher than the obstacles, we'll move forward. We'll go, yeah. So I cannot ask them which of the 3 phases you would like us to get back to normal. I can't do that. Why? Right now. They know the cost per visit, right? But we're still going to talk about the number of visits they need and the time they need. So they still don't know the price. They don't know the price because they don't know the total number of visits that we're talking about that's going to be needed for each of the 3 phases of care. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if you don't know the cost of something, are you going to move forward? This is unbelievably important. You understand this. So before you ask them if they want something that they don't even know what the costs are, you got to give them assurance, some bare minimum assurances that make it easy for them to say, oh, if that's all it could potentially be, I'll do it. Okay? And what we're really talking about, remember, are the obstacles, time or money. So I'm going to do the preemptive strike, and here's what it sounds like. It's time and money. So I'll finish the x-rays and I'll say, Mary, before we go over your treatment, your treatment options, let me just share with you, we understand, and I'll say it like this, it's an empathy statement. I say, we understand that your healthcare considerations are dependent on the amount of time it takes for you to get the health care you need and the cost. And in other words, we're putting it on the table. We're going to say we understand money and time are an issue. We're going to acknowledge it. We're not going to hide from it. Do you understand this? And you want to say we're going to say office policy, because office policy is third party and it sounds like a rule. It sounds like, oh, if that's office policy, that's good. Okay? So the 2 preemptive strikes are the 2 main obstacles for that reason. So I'll say, I'm going to address it, say, Mary, just want you to know before we go over your treatment, I just want to let you know that we understand that the time you spend for your health care is an important consideration, and the cost of the health care is an important consideration. We understand both of those. So we've created an office policy to address both of those issues. Number one, with time. You already know, and I'll say the 3 time obstacles again right now. You already know we open as early as 9, close as late as 6. You can come early, before work, at lunch, or after work. You do not have to take work off. Now, they should already kind of know all this, but you need to say it right now. Second is, you know that when you're here, you're only in the office for 20 or 30 minutes. And third, you know when you come in, we have a 7-minute wait policy. You'll see the doctor within 7 minutes. Now, if you didn't do that and you made them wait and they're in your office for an hour, you're in trouble right now because you actually helped increase the obstacle of time. Do you understand this? You're hurting yourself is what you're doing. You're making it harder for them to move forward if you don't get this straightened out. Okay, but if you're in those time frames, you're fine. So I handled all 3 of them. That's how we address time. Now, they should have already known that. I'm just reinforcing it because they've experienced it the first day, the second day, and the third day, okay? All right, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue at all right now because of what I just said. Now, money. So the second office policy is in regards to money. And we understand that cost is a major consideration to you for your choice in healthcare. And so we have an office policy regarding money, that it can cost as little as X amount every 2 weeks. And the goal is to get that number as small as possible. Now there's several ways to do that. We're going to cover this. But what am I trying to do? I'm trying to get them to see that they can move forward and it's going to be totally affordable. They can say, yeah, I want it all because I can see it's only X. Okay? Now, I can't tell you X. I'm going to give you some variables. Okay? But what's the goal? The goal is when you say X, that it's totally palatable. It's like, yeah, I can, $47 every 2 weeks, $97 every 2 weeks, whatever. Okay? That's the goal. Now, there's several ways that you can get that number down. There's several ways you can do that, okay? One way is to do what?
Extend it out.
Extend the time. Well, there's pros and cons to that, right?
Right.
If their treatment plan is going to be 4 months and maybe the payment plan would be 6 months, the general rule is you don't want somebody totally out of care more than a month of you collecting money. When somebody's not getting any care whatsoever, you can go 1 more month at the most. But people don't like to pay for stuff after they've gotten it and they're not using it. And you'll run into trouble there. So, let's go into solutions right now, okay? How can we get this number down, regardless of what your cost is and how many visits you recommend, okay? So how can we get this? What's one way? One way is we can extend it, but we said if you're going to extend it, we don't want it to go past once. We don't want to go past their treatment. So one way is to extend it. So how can we match their treatment then? Extend out the last part of their care, the remodel phase, extend it out into a less of a frequency, like once every 2 weeks. You see? Now they're still getting something for the fee. Instead of stopping it here totally and them still have to pay for 3 months. Are you with me on this? That's the simplest way. I just told you the simplest way right there. So, and also remember, so that's the preemptive strike relative to money. So one way is to take the money, extend it out. Now remember, we want to give a 20% discount if they prepay. Now when we say prepay, remember that does not mean they pay all the money up front. Like we match the number of visits times the cost and it comes out to a bulk price. Most people think of prepay as they pay the bulk price and they get a 20% discount. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if they agree to the cost and the treatment plan. Okay? In other words, they commit to that. Because remember, I'd rather them to commit for 20 or 30 or 40 visits than stop after 6 visits, right? I'd rather have 80% of 30 visits than 100% of 6 visits. Are you with me on that? Mm-hmm. Some chiropractors just don't get that. Okay? So we'd rather give them an incentive to sign up and go, yeah, I agree with that. And by the way, once they agree, they bought in. Mentally, it's over. They've agreed to the whole system, the whole process. They agree with the process. And overwhelmingly, it's over. I think I've had 5 people in my career that asked for money back, and none of them was because they didn't believe this anymore. All of them that I remember is they were out of town too much, or they moved out of town, and they physically weren't there. Okay? The point is once you agree to something, don't you just pretty much put it in your back pocket and leave and move forward mentally? Because you bought into it. You're like, yeah, I bought into it. Let's move forward with our life. And then as long as you're doing everything properly, you know, you're not violating your service agreement with them. You're not making them wait. You're treating them properly. You're measuring the bowel marker. In other words, you're doing everything you said you were going to do, right? Or that'll create a service. That'll create a problem. But anyway, and then also remember that I said, and we'll get this a little bit more, is in the beginning when you're asking money, because remember so many doctors have money problems, mental money problems and all that. In the beginning I said, what's more important, that you collect money or your confidence? Confidence is more important. I'd rather have the doctor know how to communicate this and get people to agree for smaller amounts of visits or money to increase his confidence, his skill and his confidence level first. That's what I want first. Because if I don't increase his skill or confidence level, how quickly can he ask for too much money, get shot down 1, 2, or 3 times, and then his confidence is blown? He'll never go back to it again. You know how many times I've seen that? You have to protect your confidence. So that's why it was never about the amount of money or visits in the beginning. The first thing is I just lowered the visits and the money to the doctor's comfort level, unfortunately. Not what they should get, because they, you know, typically that never covers in the beginning what the patient should get through the 3 phases of healing. But I did it to make it more palatable and comfortable for the doctor to own the skill, to get to the state of unconscious competence with his skill level and his confidence level. Then, what do I do next? Then you start increasing the visits. Not the money, the visits. Now the money will naturally come up just by increasing the visits. But now you start increasing the visits to where they should be based on the 3 phases. And you just increase it a little at a time, like 2 or 3 visits at a time, until they get to where they should be based on the 3 phases of healing. After the doctor has the confidence and ability to recommend the necessary visits and get over 70% acceptance, then you start increasing your per visit fee. That's how you handle skill and money and visits. If you just try to start selling too much too soon, too much money, you'll destroy your confidence, you'll destroy your associate doctor's confidence, and a lot of times you never recover. You never even talk money again. Next thing you know, and I've seen this a lot, next thing you know, what is the doctor doing? Symptom care. He's just doing symptom care because he doesn't have the confidence anymore. Now he's just trying to appease the patient. They just come in for symptom care, and 6, 7, 8 visits later, they're gone. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. Okay, so back to this preemptive strike thing again. This is the importance of the preemptive strike, because when we do ask them, if they know that they already understand the obstacle of time, and if they know the money is going to be totally palatable, when I ask them which of the 3 phases of care do you want to get back to normal or as much as your body will allow, why wouldn't they say all of it? They would say, right? Because who wants a permanent injury? Who wants a permanent injury? Who does want to eventually get their activities of daily living back to normal or as much as possible? All of us do, unless there's something wrong with you, right? So that's the normal sequence, is we want to get back to normal and we don't want problems from it. So what's the only issue from us making that decision? Time or money? I've handled time, so let's just make sure money's palatable. And remember, I told you there's 6 socioeconomic classes. There's only one socioeconomic class that cannot afford chiropractic care. Who is that? That's the homeless. But they don't come into your office. They don't call your office. 5 out of 6 socioeconomic people can totally afford your 30, 40, 50 visit recommendation, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. But only 2 of the 6 socioeconomic classes can afford that $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000 check up front. Only 2. So if you're going after that check and not going after terms, how much of the market are you missing? There's 6 markets, so we have 5 left. 2 of them can, 3 of them can't. So you're now, if you don't know how to talk terms, you're now missing 3 out of 5 markets, potentially. Now I'll share with you another thing. You can potentially blow them out of the water if you don't stair-step them. Now this is designed to stair-step, right? With need, time, and money. So this typically won't blow them out of the water. But you guys know this. If you say too much money too fast, you won't recover. You'll get a defensive reaction, and by the time you go to terms, it's too late. They feel like you pissed them off. You know what I mean? Has that ever happened to you guys before? You go somewhere and it was way too much and you didn't even want to listen anymore. You're like, I'm out of here. Do you know what I mean? See, that can happen. So there's some real dangers here. Destroying the doctor's confidence, coming up with too much money without stair-stepping and blowing them out of the water, where now you can't backtrack and go to terms. Okay, so what I always recommend in the beginning to increase your success rate and your confidence is not only what I just shared with you earlier, but I recommend that you don't even ask for the large amount of money, because you're setting yourself up for failure in the beginning when you don't have the confidence or skill level. You're setting yourself up. So what I recommend is we do say what it is, but immediately we go from there, take off 20% for the prepay, and then divide that however many months it's going to be. Like let's say the treatment plan is going to be 6 months. Well, we know we're going to go to bi-monthly payments every 2 weeks. So we know that it's 6 months, so we'll say 12. We'll divide 12 into that 20% off fee. So we'll take the total fee, subtract 20%, divide 12 into it, and that's the bi-weekly payment. Are you with me? Okay. And remember what I said. It has to be bi-weekly, not weekly. Why?
Every 2 weeks.
It's called psychographics of money. It's called psychographic barriers of money. We get paid the average person gets paid every 2 weeks. So they know money comes through every 2 weeks. If you try to do it weekly, even though the money would be a lot less, you'll get more no's. Why? They don't get paid every week. That's why. And we found out when you do bi-weekly versus monthly, I told you, we had a 32% increase in people that said, yeah, it was the same amount of money. The analogy I gave yesterday was, if it's $100 a month, and instead of you saying $100 a month, you said it's $50 every 2 months, we had 32% more people say, yeah, I'll do $50 every 2 weeks, even though the money was the same. Why? Because it seems less. It's $50, not $100. And it's totally okay. Why? Because when do they get paid? They get paid every 2 weeks. You see how this works? There's a lot of psychology to money. It's the psychographics of money is what I call it. It's a huge topic. I spend a lot of time on money. You got to be really good and understand money. Okay? So those are the two upfront contract, what's called those are the two statements you want to make. So again, what does it sound like? Mary, we understand, before we go over your treatment here, we understand that the time you spend on your health care and the money you spend on your health care are major factors. And because of that, we've created 2 office policies to make it easy for you to get in and out of our office quickly and make it easily affordable. And here's what we've done. In regards to time, we have 3 office policies with time to make it easy for you to get in and out. We already covered those, right? Okay. Money, in regards to money. We made it easy for you to be able to get all 3 phases of care where it can cost as little as, let's say, $47 every 2 weeks. Okay? All right. Now, let's go into the scenarios. We said one scenario is, so you've got the bulk number of visits, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. So we got the bulk visits times the unit price, multiplied it. That gave us the total price for the total care, all 3 phases of care for that patient. And by the way, always make it a buffet price. Include everything. Do not do a la carte. What's a la carte mean? The adjustments this much, this is this much. Even if you do those, it better be one price. Okay? People will pay more for a buffet price than an a la carte. When it's a la carte, what will they do? Nitpicking. They'll start nitpicking and start saying what they don't want. Well, I don't need that therapy because they wanted to save $20 or something. People like buffet. They don't want to be nitpicked. They don't want to be nickeled and dimed. So when you give that price, it includes the re-exams, the therapies, it includes everything that they're going to get for the treatment in your office. Don't you nitpick them. Matter of fact, I even recommend you throwing in that price. If you're going to throw in a brace or a pillow or anything else or nutrition, I recommend you throw it in there. Because how do you like it when you pay for something and you think it's the whole thing, and then they go, oh, this is a little bit more over here. How do you like that? Now you feel like you're being nitpicked. Trust just starts going out the window. You're like, come on. I paid the whole thing. Come on. Okay? Don't do that. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And if it's that big of a deal, include it in the buffet price. Okay? And just include it. So it's there. Okay, but don't do this and then nitpick them. Don't do that. So, you're going to have the total visits for all 3 phases, multiply it the cost per visit. It's going to include everything, the re-exams, re-x-rays, whatever you're going to do for that structured of patient. Subtract 20%. That's for the prepay. Then you're going to take that over however many months you want to spread it out. And I told you how can you get that number lower? Just spread it out more over time. Just don't cut treatment at that time. Just make sure in the remodel phase for the last few treatments, you're giving at least two treatments a month. Now, I'll just tell you another tidbit. There's so much little stuff to this. Are people more likely to come in once a month or twice a month, once every 2 weeks? What's the statistics on that? You know how chiropractors say you should get maintenance care, 1 treatment a month? Okay, that's bull. When do people come in more? When they come in longer, twice a week, twice a month, or once a month? It's twice a week. It's every 2 weeks. Now, when I found that out, guess what my maintenance plan went to? I don't have a maintenance plan, but I'm just trying to relate it to you. It's called something else.
Every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks. Why? How much more reinforcement are you going to have every 2 weeks versus once a month? How quickly do you forget something a month later? Every 2 weeks, it's a little more there, right? Okay. But it's not totally interruptive in your life, is it? Every 2 weeks. See? That's why. People stay every 2 weeks. So my point is extend the time further to help decrease that X amount that you can say. By the way, this is not what they're going to be. Let me be clear what I just said. I want to say the lowest price, but that doesn't mean that's what it's going to be for that person. That's what I can ultimately get it down to if I need to. But that does not mean that's what it's going to be for that person. Let me be clear on that. And I'm going to show you here in just a second. All we're trying to do is show them what we're willing to do with time and money to make it affordable. That's all we're trying to do here. So they can say, yes, count me in. And then I'll come up with their visits, their cost, etc. Okay? All right. So, having said that, have a generic formula that you have, number of visits, over a certain amount of time, every 2 weeks, even if you need to extend it to 8 months, right? And then just make sure they're at the very tail of their treatment, there's a certain amount of visits that are in that 2-month period, so they're at least getting the service for the money. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, see how you can get this number down really low? Okay. Another way to get the number down low is to ask for a little more money up front. Say, well, if you pay $100 up front, or if you pay $200 up front, or $250 up front, now it's only X amount every 2 weeks. Now, how much more can I get that money down? So you got to run your numbers. What's your cost per visit? The number of visits you're recommending. You got to do that kind of on your own. I can give you some generic examples, but I might say, well, if we can take out $250 or $500 or $250, then it'll come down this a month every 2 weeks, because I'll subtract that amount from the total and then divide it by those 12 payments. You see that? That's another way you can get it down. So what is the number that I suggest you try to get that number down to that's totally palatable for at least 80% of your patient base?
$47.
$47 every 2 weeks. Extend the visits, payment, combination thereof, to where you can say it costs as little as $47 every 2 weeks. Now, you guys are in practice. If you were said that, how many people, if they didn't know anything else, it costs as little as $47 every 2 weeks. And what's the other reason it makes it palatable? Is it the rest of their life? That's the reason. They know it's only going to be over a short period of time. It's not going to be 2 years. It's not going to be a car payment. It's not going to be 5 years. They know it's just going to be a few months. See, we'll pay a little more if we know it's for a short time, won't we? We will. I will. I'll go, that's more than I wanted to pay, but it's more than I wanted to pay. Will you guys not do that?
Oh, yeah.
See, you'll pay a little more if you know it's a short period of time. See, that's the other thing that you got working for you here. Okay. So that's what you want to do, is get a generic, say 6 months. Go, okay, here's a generic 3 phases of care. If the person, let's say the person was moderate, or even if you wanted to do severe, multiply the severity in the repair and the remodel phase. That gives you your bulk number of treatments, multiply it times your cost per visit. That gives you your total dollar, subtract out 20%. Now you have that, divide it by 12 treatments over 12 payments over 6 months. There you are. Or you might go to 8 months, right? There you go. Should money ever be a problem? Money should never be a problem. I told you I never turned one person away because they couldn't afford care. Now I turned people away who wanted something for nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Freeloaders, I turned them away. If they didn't want to offer something, anything, okay? Because one of the things I'm going to show you is you'll give your structured price first, and you want it affordable. If they can't afford it, I'll even extend it out. I'll do three options. Not all at once though. You'll see this here in just a second. I'll total their visits, do everything I told you, come up with their cost, their biweekly cost. Will that work for you? If it doesn't, then I'll extend it out further. I'll take it up one time, I'll go a little lower to extend it out and go, will that work for you? The third time, this is what I say to the patient. What would work for you? What payment every 2 weeks would be comfortable and work for you? And whatever they say, I just have to decide if I want to agree on it or not. Now it's just my decision. And I'll just tell you from my perspective. If I felt that they were being honest and sincere and money was tight, but they do want to get this taken care of and they did want to pay for service, whatever they said, I took. Because you're not going to get rich on one patient. It's about treating everybody. It's about treating everybody. And now that's not what happened the majority of the time. Don't believe me. We didn't sit in here and I go, whatever you want to pay, I'll take. That is not how it went. So it was unbelievably rare by the time I said that. Because the first price was always the one that worked. Why? Because I made it affordable the first time I said it. I knew to do that. And even if that didn't work, then I would cut it by, say, 20, 25% and go, well, then I extended it. Then I would extend it. And I go, well, that worked. I'd easily say 50 to 70% of the time, the people accepted the first shot. Another 20% would accept the exact. By the time I got to the third one, I'm talking about less than 10% of the people. I'm talking about a real small amount of people. And then that's just your decision. Is that something that you want to do or not? Okay? And then the other option we said is ask for a little more deposit if you wanted to. Okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
How important is that preemptive strike question?
Okay.
Time and money. You better nail it. Because can they commit and say, yeah, I want all three phases, if they don't know the amount of money involved? They can't. You can't. But if prior to that, I say, worst case scenario, it's as little as $47 every 2 weeks. And in your mind, you go, yeah, that's fair. Can you commit now and go, yeah, I'll do all three? Because you know, worst case scenario, that's the most. You understand this? Mm-hmm. Very important. We started doing this, prepay rates went up 27%. 27%. Just by those two statements, the preemptive strike questions, and doing what I just told you.